Hey everyone, another day in Vegas. This time I'm playing 1-3 no limit hold'em at the Wynn. There's a $500 max buy-in and I plan to buy in for 500 bucks. Hope you guys enjoy. Please like and subscribe. Here we go.
Okay, this is the first recordable hand of the session. I'm in the big blind and I look down at my nemesis, ace deuce offsuit. Lost a big one with this hand during my last session. The middle position player raises to 10 bucks, the button calls, the small blind calls, and I would normally fold this hand. However, with so many people in the hand pre-flop, I will generally play any ace from the big blind, and that's what I do here. I called the $10 raise. There are 4 ways to a flop, which is 4 jack ace with 2 diamonds. Small blind checks, I check being way out of position and it ends up checking around. The turn is the queen of clubs. The small blind checks, and as the action checked around on the flop, and that the opening raised by the middle position player was a bit on the small side, I don't think anyone has a monster here, or even an ace for that matter. So I bet 16 bucks, which is about 40% of the pot, and everyone ends up folding. Small pot here, but I'll take it. Okay, in this hand I'm in the under the gun position, and I look down at a good one, pocket jacks. I open for 12 bucks, which is my standard open in a 1-3 session. It folds all the way around to the small blind who makes the call, and the big blind makes the call as well. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is deuce, 9, 10, rainbow. It's about as good a flop as it gets for pocket jacks. However, the small blind leads for 20 bucks. I don't have much information on this guy, so what this is telling me is that this is a protection bet. Maybe he's on a straight draw, but on the low end variety like 7-8. I have 2 of the jacks out there, so it's less likely he'll have queen jack. It's possible he has a pair and is trying to take the pot down right now. Regardless, the small blind folds and I'm definitely calling here, so that's what I do. The turn is the ace of spades. This card doesn't scare me as much. The small blind checks, and I think he's probably given up at this point, given I didn't fold his aggression after the flop. So I bet a little less than half the pot, and he ends up folding. In this hand, I'm in the low jack position, and I look down at ace queen offsuit. I open with my standard sizing of 12 bucks, and it folds around to the big blind who makes the call. So we are heads up to a flop, which is 7, 10, 3 with 2 diamonds. Big blind checks, and I didn't hit anything but have a couple of overcards, so I put in a C bet of 10 bucks, and the big blind makes the call. The turn is the jack of diamonds, so the front door flush gets there, and this time the big blind leads for 20 bucks. What I've seen in these low stakes games is that people typically play straight up and bet when they have a hand or a draw, regardless if they're in position or not. And all I've got is a gutter to a straight and still a couple of overs, so it doesn't really make sense to continue at this point, so I let this one go. Okay, in this hand I'm on the button and I look down at pocket queens. The middle position player limps, the hijack limps, the cutoff limps, and I'm definitely raising this one up, so I raised to 18 bucks. However, the middle position player calls, the hijack calls, and the cutoff calls. What the heck? We are 4 ways to a flop, which is 4, 2, 10 with 2 diamonds. Alright, this is looking pretty good. It checks around to me and I'm definitely putting more money into this pot, so I bet 35 bucks, which is a little under half the pot. However, the middle position player jams for his remaining stack of about 175 bucks. What on earth? The hijack and cutoff get out of the way and I have a decision to make here. Did he open limp with pocket 4s or 2s? He definitely wouldn't have limped with pocket 10s. Plus I think it's possible he could have let out post flop had he had a set of 4s or 2s. So he might be on a diamond draw or he's got just a pair of 10s here. So I make the call and he shows 10-6 of spades. Alright, he's got 6 outs here. The turn is the ace of hearts, looking pretty good. And the river is the 10 of hearts. Oh, that is gut-wrenching. I gather my chips to send his direction. My stomach has pretty much hit the floor here at this point. This one's a big bummer. Prior to this hand, I added on for an additional 200 bucks, so I'm in the game for a total of $700. In this hand, I'm in the cutoff position, and I look down at pocket jacks. Hijack limps, and I'm bumping this one up, so I raised to 15 bucks, and the big blind calls and the hijack calls. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is 3, 4, 5 with 2 spades. Alright, so another great flop for an overpair here. However, the big blind leads for 20 bucks and then the hijack jams for his remaining stack of 115 bucks. Holy smokes. Another overpair here and another tough decision to make. I think the hijack definitely has a straight or a set here. I just don't see anything else he could have. So there's no way I'm good, and I let this one go. The big blind ended up folding as well, who was likely on a spade draw. Okay, in this hand I'm in the middle position, and I look down at ace-jack offsuit. The under the gun player limps, and I bump this one up to 15 bucks. The cutoff calls, the big blind calls, and the under the gun player folds. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is Jack 9-10 rainbow. Okay, so I've got top pair here, top kicker, but this is a pretty connected board here. Big blind checks and I check as I'm still out of position. A case could be made to bet here and take a bit of a more aggressive route, but I elected to check in this instance, and the cutoff checks as well. The turn is a complete blank, the 2 of clubs. The big blind checks, and this time I'm putting in some of my poker funds into this pot, and I bet 30 bucks. Cutoff makes the call, and the big blind folds. So we are heads up to a river, which is the 10 of diamonds. I think I'm pretty good here. I think the cutoff was on a draw, as I saw him checking his cards multiple times during the hand. As I gather my chips to put in the bet, cutoff folds, so I take this one down. Okay, in this hand I'm in the big blind and I look down at King Queen of diamonds. The low jack limps, the high jack limps, and the cutoff raises to $25. This is a pretty big raise here, even into a limped pot. So I plan to proceed cautiously and I make the call. The low jack and high jack get out of the way, so we are heads up to a flop, which is Queen King 10 rainbow. Okay, I'll take that flop. I check to the aggressor and he ends up checking as well. I'm thinking he might have a medium pocket pair here, maybe like 8s or 9s. The turn is the 6 of diamonds. This time I bet 30 bucks, about half the pot, and the cutoff ends up folding, so I'll take it. Okay, in this hand I'm on the button and I look down at pocket 5s. The middle position player limps, the cutoff raises to $15, and I make the call, hope to do some set mining here. Small blind calls and the middle position player folds. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is 5, jack, 9, rainbow. Alright, I hit my set. Small blind checks, the cutoff checks, and here is where I make my first mistake in this hand. I end up taking the trapping route and check here. I most definitely should have bet, maybe in the $25 to $30 range, but I checked. The turn is the ace of diamonds. Small blind and cutoff both check, and I can't wait around any longer, so I put in a bet of 25 bucks, and both the small blind and cutoff call. So what could they have here? Are they on a draw of some sorts? The pot is $126, and the river is the 10 of clubs. The small blind checks, so it's likely he missed or maybe has just a pair. The cutoff bet's 105 bucks, just under the size of the pot. What the heck? This definitely feels like he has king queen here, but in this spot, even though I was sure he had king queen, I convinced myself there was a possibility he had 2 pairs, something like ace 10, and I put in the call. Small blind folds and the cutoff does in fact show king queen, and he takes this one down. Very upset at myself on my play in this hand. Okay, this is a full rotation later. I'm on the button and I look down at ace 7 of spades. The middle position player limps, the hijack limps, and I'm still a tad tilted at this point. I raise to 15 bucks and both the middle position and hijack players make the call. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is 7 queen 3 with 2 clubs. The middle position player checks, the hijack checks, and I am 100% putting some money into this pot, so I bet 25 bucks and both players fold, so I take this one down. In this hand, I'm in the big blind and I look down at Queen 10 offsuit. The low jack limps, the small blind completes, and I make the check here. This really isn't strong enough hand to raise. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is ace 6 8 with 2 spades. Small blind checks, I check as there's not much going on here except for a backdoor spade draw, and the low jack checks as well. The turn is the 10 of spades. Small blind checks, and at this point I don't think anyone has an ace or they would have put money into this pot. So I think my second pair may be good here, plus my backdoor spade draw is still alive. So I put in a bet of 10 bucks and the low jack makes the call and the small blind folds. So we are heads up to a river, which is the 4 of spades. Alright, so I hit my queen high flush. I put in a pot-sized bet of 30 bucks and the low jack makes the call. He shows ace jack offsuit with the jack of spades, so I take this one down. Makes me wish I would have put in a bit more, maybe 50 bucks, but I didn't, and I'm still glad to take this one down. Okay, in this hand we are short-handed. It folds to me on the button and I look down at 10-7 of diamonds. I open for 12 bucks and the big blind makes the call. The flop is 7-6-8 with 2 clubs. The big blind checks and I've connected a bit with this board. I've got middle pair plus a gut shot straight draw. So I put in a bet of 10 bucks and the big blind makes the call. The turn is the 4 of spades. Big blind takes a long look at his cards and makes the check. And I check here as well. Something was telling me he connected here and possibly has a 5. The river is the 7 of hearts, so I improved to trips, but the big blind leads for 20 bucks, which is less than a half-size pot bet. It's very possible he has a 5 here, but with such a good price, I make the call, convincing myself again that he's stabbing or has 2 pair. He ends up showing pocket 5s and takes this pot down. Another mistake here where I didn't lean into my initial thoughts. Kind of frustrating. In this hand, I'm in the small blind and I look down at ace jack offsuit. The under the gun +1 opens for 7 bucks, which was the smallest opening raise I've seen yet at this table. The middle position player calls the $7, the low jack calls, and I think this is a good opportunity for a squeeze, see if I can single someone out. So I 3-bet to 30 bucks. The +1 folds, but both the middle position and LoJack players call. There are 3 ways to a flop, which is 8, 2, 10 with 2 clubs. I make my standard out of position check. The middle position player checks and the LoJack checks as well. The turn is the 3 of spades. I check, really haven't connected with this board, and it ends up checking around again. The river is the 7 of clubs. I check and have pretty much given up at this point. The middle position player puts out a black chip but announces a bet of 70 bucks. The LoJack folds and I fold as well. Really don't see any reason to call here. Okay, prior to this hand, I added on for an additional 100 bucks, so I'm in the game for a total of $800. In this hand, I'm in the big blind and I'll look down at 9-10 offsuit. The hijack limps, the small blind completes, and I make the check here. The pot is a whopping 9 bucks and the flop is 6-10-6 rainbow. Alright, I've got top pair here, pretty weak kicker. Small blind checks, and I check to the aggressor. But now that I think about it, is a limper really an aggressor? Hijack bets 10 bucks here, the small blind gets out of the way, and I'm definitely making the call with my top pair, so I make the call. We're heads up to a turn, which is the 7 of hearts. I check with the intention of being a bit more aggressive here. The hijack bets 15 bucks, and I decide to put in the check raise, so I raise it to 45 bucks. The hijack thinks about it for a bit and makes the fold, so I take this one down. In this hand, I'm in the big blind, and I look down at pocket jacks. Yep, third time this session I've seen these guys. The cutoff limps, the small blind completes. I'm definitely bumping this one up, so I raise to 17 bucks. The cutoff folds and the small blind makes the call. So we are heads up to a flop, which is 9-4-7 with 2 hearts. Alright, another good flop for an overpair here. Small blind checks and I put in a bet of 20 bucks, a little over half the pot, and he makes the call. The turn is the 2 of clubs. The small blind checks, and this time I'm going to go for a bit more value here. I put in nearly pot-sized bet of 65 bucks, and the small blind makes the call. I don't think he's got a set, or he likely would have initially bet or raised me post-flop, so I think it's more likely he's on a draw or has something like 9-10 or 8-9. The river is the 5 of spades. The small blind checks, and this time I jam for about the size of the pot, and he ends up folding. He shows ace-3 of hearts, so he was in fact on a heart draw here, so I take this one down. Okay, in this hand I'm in the hijack position, and I look down at ace-jack of spades. The middle position player limps, and I bump this one up to 15 bucks. The button calls, the small blind and big blind get out of the way, and the middle position player makes the call as well. So we are 3 ways to a flop, which is the 6 of clubs, the queen of spades, and the king of spades. Holy smokes, I'm on a royal flush draw. The middle position player checks, and I'm 100% putting money in this pot, so I bet 20 bucks. The button calls, and the middle position player folds, so we are heads up to a turn, which is the 2 of spades. Alright, so I've got the nuts here. Still looking for that 10 of spades, but I'll definitely take the 2. I put out a bet of $55, and the button makes the call. The river is the king of hearts. Oh well, no royal flush, but I've got the nut flush here anyways. I don't have the nuts anymore, but I think I'm still solid. He would have likely raised had he had a set on the flop, so I put in a pot-sized bet of $200, and the button thinks about it for a bit and ends up folding. I'm wondering if I should have put in a smaller bet here, like 50 bucks, but I was going for value, and I think a pot-sized bet was appropriate here. Let me know what you think. In this hand, I'm in the hijack position, and I look down at the best pre-flop hand in poker, pocket aces. The LoJack opens for 11 bucks, and I'm definitely bumping this one up, so I 3-bet to 35 bucks, and the cutoff quickly puts in the call, and the LoJack folds. The pot is $85, and the flop is 9-5 king with 2 hearts. Alright, I've still got the overpair plus a backdoor heart draw. I lead for $40, and the cutoff thinks about it for a bit and ends up folding. Quick hand here, but wanted to show you guys these aces. Okay, this is the final hand of the session. I'm in the cutoff position, and I look down at ace-queen offsuit. The under the gun limps, the LoJack limps, the hijack limps, and I definitely won't be limping here. I raise this one up to 20 bucks. The big blind calls, the under the gun calls, the LoJack calls, and the hijack folds. Holy cow, we are 4 ways to a flop, which is 7 king 2 with 2 hearts. Big blind checks, and the under the gun player bets $50 here, a bit out of turn, so he's definitely got a king or is on a heart draw or maybe a set or something like that. The LoJack folds, and I don't think this is worth staying around, so I make the fold, and the big blind folds as well.
Okay, just finished the session at the Wynn. Played for about 6.5 hours. Was in for 800, out for 464 for a loss of 336. Another rough session. This session I think I had a couple of bad beats. Maybe I wasn't raising enough. I know there was one particular hand where I hit a set of 5s I should have bet. But yeah, just another loss. And but I'm gonna hang in there, stick to my guns, and hope for a better session next time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.